Welcome to today's session. I have a special sequence which is geared for something that I've been experiencing this last week, unfortunately, which is low backache. It's something muscular, so not too serious. And I decided to go back to my roots, so to speak, which was training that I did in the BKS Iyengar method. And this amazing teacher wrote a book, which is The Path to Holistic Health. And in the back of that book are many, many practices for different conditions. And the ones that address the back, one's spine, are even divided up into different complaints. And so you have your low back, your mid back, your upper back. And I found it really helpful. And so I thought I would offer it to you, and then it can go into our library, our collection of practices. This book also has philosophy in it and some yoga history. It's a great resource, and I recommend it. So let's begin standing on our mats. And because this is what we call the Iyengar method kind of practice, and it's my preference often anyway, there are lots of props. So blankets, bolster, block, belt, and chair. So if you need just a moment to collect all those things. But we'll start with just some simple upper body stretches. In Tadasana, with your feet just slightly apart, relax your shoulders downward and stretch your spine upwards from the base of your spine to the crown of your head. Lengthen your arms without tensing them, and keep the backs of your knees slightly relaxed. And then let's bring the arms forward and up for an overhead stretch. When I do this, I imagine that I've got a yoga block between my palms and I'm pressing the block lightly just to tone and activate my upper arm muscles and my shoulders. And we're breathing, and just keep the lower ribs relaxed and downward and inward rather than thrusting forward. So your diaphragm ribs are down instead of forward and up. And then arms back to your side. Interlock your hands, turn your palms inside out. Give a little bit more time to get the bottoms of your fingers together so you get a really good knuckle stretch. And as you straighten your elbows, an arm stretch, fully stretching. Inhale, arms up, and keep breathing. And keep those ribs more towards your hips than towards your shoulders. And stretch away. If it feels like a nice movement, bring your arms back a little bit without bringing your head forward. And when you bring your arms down in front of your chest, change the interlock of your hands. Keep the roots of your fingers in contact. Press forward and then up. And reach through the center of your palms. If you rotate, you can lift your thumbs a little bit higher and your little fingers downward. And that brings the stretch into the inner wrist. And then arms forward and down. And shake out your wrists, shake out your elbows. Let's do a lateral stretch just because we can. Bring your left leg in front of your right leg, right leg in front of your left leg. So you've crossed over there. And then when you reach for your hand, grab left hand, right wrist, extend the arms overhead, and then do your lean out to the left side. I know, it's a little bit of a balancing pose too, and that usually doesn't go astray. And that lateral stretch all along the right side of your body. Back to center position, let go of all that, and bring your left leg in front of your right leg. Now your feet more or less in a line, but they're crossed over. And then when you bring your left arm up, hold left hand, right wrist, and do your lean out to the right side. I like this for opening up my shoulder blade on that left side, my waist, my hip, and then back to center and uncross everything. And let's do a clock pose at the wall, another warm up for arms and shoulders. So turn side on to a wall position and bring your right arm straight up towards the ceiling and place your right palm onto the wall. I've left just a little gap between my right side of my body and the wall. Notice it makes a difference when you press your hand into the wall for toning the arm muscles. And then if you were on a clock face with your right hand, can you just have a look at your right hand and move it back a little bit? So maybe it would be 12:30 or 1 o'clock. Notice if your left shoulder is trying to help out, that's what happens. Relax that left shoulder down. And if you want to go one step further, you might take your hand back a little bit further behind you, but be very considerate and thoughtful about your shoulder movement. Not everybody can go into a deep back stretch like this. All right, and then bring the arm forward and down. Pause there, consolidate, and then feel what that arm feels like on that side versus its mate. And swing around and let's do the other side. So on the clock face, when your left arm is up, then it's at 12 o'clock. And press your palm, drop that right shoulder, soften behind your knees again, and then little by little, you might nudge that arm back, going back in time now towards 11:30 or 11 o'clock. If you go deeply into this, you'll be turning into the wall. What happens if you open your right shoulder so your chest is facing more forward once again? And then let's bring that arm forward and down. Take a moment. How does that feel on the left arm versus the right? And then let's take a spot on your mat for downward facing dog pose. And starting from all fours kneeling, and giving a little time to connect with the upper part of your back, your scapula, shoulder blades. Lift your upper part of your back up towards the ceiling. Draw your navel in towards your body. Tuck your toes under. And as you lift your knees, start to lift your hips high. The first one of these dog poses, walk the dog. So one heel goes down and the other one, and there's that nice movement that ripples up your spine, hip movement, lower back. And then stay right up on your tippy toes, on the balls of your feet. Lift your heels high, lift your buttocks high. And then finally, we'll just work very conscientiously into our hamstring stretch as we lower our heels. And then take a walk forward.
Walk your hands back. Let's stay in Uttanasana, head down and buttocks up. And reach and hold the front of your legs. So, I don't know, somewhere along your legs, shin bone, just above your ankles. So you can straighten your arms and lift your chest and project your head and your chest forward. Notice if it makes a difference for you. It does for me. If you transfer your weight towards the forefoot, so instead of having 80% of your weight on your heels, it's more divided, and lift your tailbone up towards the ceiling. And then if you like, go fully into Uttanasana, standing forward bend, head down. The back line of your legs from your heels to your buttocks upwards. Then bring your hands onto your hips, press your hips down onto your legs, bend your knees over your ankles, and inhale and come up and all the way up to standing in Tadasana. Lovely. And we continue with the Iyengar sequence of several standing poses. So have a block nearby. For the first standing pose, we won't need it, but just leave it in front of your position. Facing the long end of your mat, step out. And take a moment to land on both feet. Turn your feet to the right. And I saw this in a class last week, which I admired. Turn your right leg out, right at the top of the thigh. And as you do that, tuck your right buttock in. And you'll be well placed now for Trikonasana, triangle pose on the right side. Lift the arms, extend right out and over your right leg, and right hand down and left arm up towards the ceiling. So that movement of turning the top right thigh out will bring the left hip a little forward, or the left thigh rolling in slightly. And they balance each other, those two movements. Lift your tailbone. And breathing softly. And inhale and come up. And turn your feet the other way until your left foot's turned out 90 degrees. And then you might help that movement along for the top of the thigh with your left hand and rolling the thigh out. And as I said, the right thigh comes a little bit forward and turns in. And then reach out over your left thigh. Bring your left hand down, your right arm up towards the ceiling. And then reminding yourself of that adjustment. Top left thigh turns out, left buttock tucks in, lift your tailbone. And reach the arms in that vertical line in opposite directions. Beautiful. Inhale and come all the way up. Turn your feet front and center and step all the way back in. From Tadasana, we're moving into Parva Konasana, and that's where we will need the block. So step out nice and wide. Turn the left foot in a little bit. Turn your right foot out 90 degrees. Let's warm up the knees a little bit more by flexing and extending the right knee. So nice gliding movement for the right knee, and bend and straighten. We're not fully straightening, we're just keeping that momentum. This time hold the position in the bent leg position. And then if you bring your right hand onto the inside of your right knee, you can coax your knee back a little bit. It opens up the groin when I do that. And at the same time, turning that thigh out again, tucking the right buttock in. And you're well set up for Parva Konasana. And we'll treat this as just that warm up on the right side and set up the left side. Turn your right foot in a little bit, turn your left foot out 90 degrees, and let's bend and straighten. Feel your weight onto your heels strongly, that left heel, the outer right heel. Good. Hold that bent leg position this time. Rest your hands on the inside of the left thigh. Turn that skin and the muscle of the thigh out and bring the knee back slightly. And tuck the left buttock in. And inhale and come up. And let's complete the pose using the block this time. And take the block. I like starting and maybe even finishing with the block on the high end on the outside of my right shin bone. But you're likely to be experienced with this pose, so you can have it on the mid-range or lower end too. And then let's start with the arms out wide to the side, bend into the right leg as you've done before, and now we reach the trunk over the right thigh. Bring your right hand down onto the block, the left arm up towards the ceiling. Hold it with the arms in the vertical extended position as they are. And then remind yourself of that adjustment, right thigh, right leg. Turn the thigh out, bring the knee back a little bit, tuck the right buttock in. You're well set up now. Turn your left palm to the right side and bring it overhead. Keep a little separation between your left bicep and your left ear. And then bring your left ear towards your left bicep. You can take your block with you, so strengthen through your back leg. Press that footprint down, left foot. Inhale and come up. Turn your feet front and center and your feet all the way to the left side. Take up your block in the position you like. Lengthen the arms out from your shoulders. Drop into the left leg. Roll the left thigh back. Tuck the left buttock in and extend well over your left thigh. Left hand down, right arm up. Lift your tailbone. Often when you bring your hand down, then you've lifted the hip out of that bent leg position. So you might check that and drop the left hip a little bit. Turn your palm towards the left side. Bring your right hand overhead. Straighten through your elbow. Straighten through your back leg. And then bring your right ear towards your right arm. And take the block with you when you come up. Lengthen back into your right leg. Inhale and come up. Turn your feet front and center. Leave your block there in front of you and step all the way back in. And the next of the standing poses is one that we've worked on a bit in these sessions, especially recently, and we call it Ardha Chandrasana or half moon pose. And I'm going to do the supported version of it where my back is towards the wall. And if I step out, right foot turned out, left foot turned in a little bit, I'm about the same distance as I was for Trikonasana. I'm going to use my block again, and perhaps I'll just show the pose. When you use the wall, it's there for your support, so you can actually be touching the wall
shoulders, or buttocks. And then moving into the balancing, one-legged balance, here we go. There's the block for me to rest my hand on, and the wall for my hip and my lower shoulder. So give yourself a little bit of time. And keep the balancing leg, that's your right leg, the knee flexed. So we're not trying to straighten that leg completely. In fact, you'll get some very good strengthening work for your thigh muscle if you don't straighten the leg. In the last part, you might raise the upper arm. And your body makes a very nice line, the horizontal part, head and raised leg, the vertical line of your arms and your balancing leg. And then as gracefully as you can, bend the standing leg, lower down for the second side. So you still have the same distance as in Trikonasana. Make sure that hasn't shrunk. And then set your block up in front of your left foot. We're going to reach out for it at the same time as you bend the legs, slide the back leg in, reach for the block. And if you feel relatively well balanced there, not shaky, then straighten the top arm. Straighten the raised leg with your foot flexed. And let's go to ground and bending the standing leg, releasing from the block, or taking it over to the original side because we have one more round. So I'm setting myself up on the right side in the same manner. And why I've been able to do such a nice demonstration here is because I have used the support of the wall. So what if I try to wean myself away from the wall? So the lower buttock and the lower shoulder blade not resting on the wall. And can I still talk and balance at the same time? That's always a challenge. Yes. And releasing and reaching back that raised leg as you bend the weight-bearing leg and coming all the way up with the block. One more round and to the left. Take your time. You're well supported when you use the wall behind you like this. But it also can help you strengthen your pose. So without leaning into the wall, the lower shoulder blade, bring it forward. The lower buttock, bring it forward. Keep the back leg flexed. And then just see if you can manage one more adjustment here. Turn the weight-bearing leg, that left leg, turn it out. Turn it out. Bring the buttock forward. The same adjustment that you did in the last two standing poses. And then looking for the floor with the raised leg, and take your block with you, and inhale, and come all the way up. And Tadasana, home base. So my version of Tadasana is my feet a little bit apart, squared forward, and sensing and feeling the balance of weight on my two footprints. Drop your shoulders. Observe your breath.
Can you lengthen a little bit more from the little finger side of your hand? Beautiful. And the last of the standing poses is the one with the long name, Prasarita Padottanasana, or wide leg forward bend. So do step out wide on your mat. Take up your block on the high end in front of you. And then bring your hands into the fold at the top of the hips and the bottom, and the top of the thighs and the bottom of the hips. And do a hinge forward by deepening that crease. Let the buttocks move up, and then take both hands onto the block. We're not going down yet so much as projecting forward. Keep your tail lifting. Keep a good support through your arms by straightening your elbows and bringing your breastbone forward. Notice where your weight lands on your feet. You could roll your feet and your ankles a little bit to adjust them so that you have weight on the outside of your foot and the inside of your foot as well. The inner heel, the outer heel. And then let's go down if you're ready to, and take the block away and bring the hands down to the floor. The inner line of your legs from your inside ankles, inner knees, inner thighs, or the inseam of your shorts or your tights, drawing all the way up into your pelvis. And releasing your head from the back of your neck to the crown of the head downwards, and your bum bones upwards, your buttock bones upwards. Now bring your block back in and place it on the high end and your hands back onto the block. And let's do a little rotation here, just because that is a nice thing to do for your spine. Have your left hand on just your left hand on the top of the block, your right hand onto your right hip. And then as you straighten the left arm fully, pushing into the block, turn your trunk towards the right side. Turn. And here you might want to bring the right arm up towards the ceiling. If that feels too strong in your shoulders, just keep your hand onto your hip, but roll your shoulder back. Looking down where your hand is on the block, switch, and right hand is the supporting hand, left hip, and turning in that direction. And see what your shoulders will allow for today. And maybe the left arm up. And two hands onto the block again. Pump up your chest, bring it forward, and then have a look at your feet. And let's go heel, toe, back to center. Bend your knees over your ankles. Inhale and come up with your arms just by your side this time. And all the way to standing. Very good. I thought, and maybe I should have done this before the balancing pose, it would be good to do a balancing exercise, although that is not in the BKS Iyengar sequence, but we can improvise a little bit. So stand, with your Tadasana. And we'll do a little bit of practice. It's very simple kind of balancing. Bring your right foot forward and create a clock face again. And right foot forward to 12 o'clock and back to 6 o'clock. And back to 12 o'clock. Allow your weight to be borne on that front leg too. And 6 o'clock. And switch out without coming to center to 9 o'clock.
back to center. 12 o'clock. 6 o'clock. So you're leaning back for that. 9 o'clock. Back to center. If we switch legs, can you come to 3 o'clock? And back. And 12 o'clock. And back. And 6 o'clock. And 3 o'clock. And what about 9 o'clock over here? And 3 o'clock. And 7 o'clock. And 2 feet together. Left leg, 1 o'clock. Or sorry, right leg, 1 o'clock. Don't let me confuse you. Don't let me confuse me. And then 9 o'clock. 3 o'clock. 9 o'clock. 6 o'clock. 12 o'clock. And finish. And shake your legs out a little bit. I may have confused you completely. I was confusing myself there for a little while. All right. Let's take a small back bend. In the BKS Iyengar sequence, he does this with suggests we do this with a yoga chair. And it's a very strong position. And in any case, yoga chairs are strange contraptions. And not the least because they don't have a back on them. So I'm going to give you this version and show it to you, and then I'll give you a more moderate version using your bolster. But we want to emphasize doing a back bend at this point in the sequence. So if I take the chair, I'm sitting backwards in it. And I can do that because it's backless. When I come to do my back bend, I want as much of my spine supported as possible. That means I've dragged my hips through, so some of my buttocks are all the way through towards the back of the chair. So I don't crank my neck. I'm going to reach my hands back and cradle my head into my clasped hands. And then I can open my chest as much as I want. Now, the other option, and that's where I'm going to go to and complete my back bend. So chin to chest to come up. Bring your elbows onto the seat of the chair. Hold the sides of the chair and come all the way up, sliding your buttocks back. So we can all do this together and take up a bolster long ways on your mat. For a supported back bend. So I come over the bolster and sit in the middle of it and preparing to lie backwards. So I'm face up on the bolster. I'm using my hands to support me in lowering back. The round end of the bolster is in my mid-back area, not in my lower back. And that lets me allow my shoulders to come towards the floor. My head and my shoulders supported. You'll notice I have my legs still bent, and so that
releases any, or it mitigates any pressure on my low back, which I'm endeavoring to soothe with this practice. If you want to create more of an upper back bend, then you could bring your arms overhead. So either in cactus position, crooked at the elbow, or one palm resting in the other. In my classes, I often see people at this point extending their legs out as though they would want more stretch. And that's perfectly all right to do. That will stretch the front line of your body very, very much, over your hips, through your legs. But I'm not in a hurry, and I do want this pose to be soothing, so I'm going to keep my legs bent and my feet next to the bolster. Throughout my talking through this, I've probably been here for at least 3 minutes. Let's just stay 1 more minute. And we can think about moving off the prop in degrees. So definitely not rolling to the side or sitting up, but just stepping your feet back a little bit and lowering down by degrees until your buttocks touch down. And take a little while longer and release the upper part of your body to the support of the mat. Soften the mid-back, the lower back. And we're going to move on to, they're sometimes called the low leg stretches, Supta Padangusthasana. They're actually also sometimes called hip openers. So let's take up a lying down position with a belt next to you. You're going to be on your back with your legs straight out towards the wall and feet touching the wall. Just have to make a little wardrobe adjustment here. Okay. So stretching out in one long line away from the wall, but your feet wedged into the wall. This is a good way to work through these leg movements because you'll have one side that's always grounded and supportive. Let's start with the right leg and bend the right leg in towards your chest. Slip the belt around the ball of the foot. So it could be in the arch of the foot, but I like to do it closer to the toes, the balls of the feet. And take up the belt so you're holding one hand each side of the strap. And then do reach your floor leg back towards the wall. Press your foot into the wall. Keep the back of the leg and the left hip in contact with the floor as much as possible. So when you've extended the leg, you might, if you need to, for practicing kindness to your hamstrings, keep a knee bend. By all means do that. But feel the weight of the femur back towards the floor and towards the housing of the hip. So even though you're stretching the leg up, apparently you're moving the thigh bone down into the hip. Right? And then flex your foot a little bit so that your sole of your foot is parallel with the ceiling. So toes down a little bit, heel up. Let's move out to the sideways stretch and take up the strap just into your right hand and make a slow movement over to the right with the right leg stretch, but be very in touch with the left side of your body again. Left foot into the wall, left hip down, left ribs down. And then we're avoiding tipping to that side. And stretching. Like you did in some of the standing poses, you can turn the thigh out a little bit as you're going to the right. And then bring that leg all the way up into center and right leg to the wall and just leave it be and just feel the sensations that are created by stretching the muscles of the right leg. And maybe it doesn't feel exactly the same as the left leg. And in what ways is it different? Bend your left leg in, pop the belt onto your left foot. Extend that leg at the same time as you extend the right foot into the wall. Left leg up, right leg out and down, and as the left leg extends, be thoughtful about how much you want to extend it from the beginning. If you need to crook the knee a little bit for the sake of your hamstrings, take that approach. And you'll have quite a lot of thoughtful and effective work if you work the floor leg. So keep extending out through the right foot to the wall, down towards the thigh bone towards the floor. And let's go left with that left leg and holding the belt just into your left hand and out. And the more that I do this, and especially on this side, the more my right side wants to lift. I want to keep it open. I guess that is part of the theory that these are hip opening poses. The front of the pelvis is wide. So you're not turning to the left side. You're opening that hip. And then the left thigh can turn out a little bit if you like. Bring the leg all the way up to the vertical and pop the belt off. And left leg to the wall. Without doing any more with it, just feel the sensations that work has created in the thigh and the hip. And let's take these warm-ups that we've done for the hamstrings into Upavista Konasana. So carefully roll over to the side and come up to a seated position. And for my part, I'm going to sit on a bolster. Or if you have folded blanket, sit on a folded blanket. Yes, have a seat on your bolster.
Make your seating adjustment by drawing the buttock flesh back a little bit away from the sitting bones, and then extend the legs out as we do in these kind of splits, the shape of the splits. Extend the legs with the feet flexed again. And as you'll see, I'm supporting myself on my hands next to my hips onto the bolster so that I can lift and open my chest. The tendency is to roll back, so you could even push away through your hands and project forward slightly. Keep the chest high and open. And as much as you can, extend through the back line of the legs, from your buttock bones to your heels, pushing out. And we'll hold for just a few more moments and adjust the knees so that they're square right in the median line of the leg, and the inner part of the knee as you stretch the hamstrings moving towards the floor as best you can. If this is too strong for you, of course, it's fine to keep a slight knee bend and especially work on the uprightness of your spine. We'll move into Parva Konasana, and maybe with a few variations, lift up on the inside of your knees with the help of your hands. Bring your soles of your feet together. Now, I'm propped up quite well here, quite high, but if I bring my heels in too close to me, my knees are lifting higher than my hips. I'm trying to avoid that because that does project me onto my tail. So I'll take a step forward with my feet. So now I have not such an acute angle behind my knees, which is probably kinder for my knees. Prop yourself up on your hands again and lift your chest. And once more, project forward. What do we work on when we do Parva Konasana? We work on the internal line of the legs and especially the groin opening. That won't happen immediately, so also be kind to your knees in this position so it feels unforced. And from here, and because I've got this wide angle behind my knees, I can come forward. And then let's lift back up. Lift the outside of your knees with the help of your hands. Extend the legs forward straight. And come up to standing and take up your chair for a seated twist. So with my yoga chair, I can sit side on, right side facing the back of the chair. And adjust my position so that I'm sitting with both feet, each foot underneath its respective knee, your knees a little bit apart, your feet a little bit apart, but really supporting. So feel your two footprints, right foot, left foot, and then feel your seat on the chair, your two sitting bones. And from there, bring your hands onto the back of the chair. Sit tall. What we say, sitting pretty. And I like this version of the pose where you lift your elbows
And if you lift your elbows out to the side, you can widen your shoulder blades. In actual fact, one shoulder blade is widening. As you're turning from left to right, it's your right shoulder blade wide from the spine, and your left shoulder blade wide from the spine, and your right shoulder blade moving in towards the spine. Look over your shoulder. Can you turn your lower ribs, your diaphragm at the same time? Let's say you look over the opposite shoulder, lift your chest again, and then let's take up the second side. So for side 2, your feet are grounded, your seat is grounded on the chair, and then when you take up and hold the back of the chair, make a good beginning, lift your elbows. As your elbows stretch away from each other, then the collarbones are opening wide. We're not trying to keep the knees or the hips in a line. So as we turn towards the left, now the right shoulder blade wide out towards the right elbow, left shoulder blade in. And that left knee and the left hip glide back a little bit, and right hip, right knee forward. Turn and look over your opposite shoulder. Pump up your chest again. Good. And then release and coming out. Or coming off the chair, I should say. And take up your bolster again. A bolster is a great investment in a yoga prop. Is it the best of the yoga props? Maybe. Because we use them for all kinds of openings, for sitting well, for comfort. All right, have a seat. So I've placed my bolster long ways away from the wall. It's where I'm going to sit with my right side facing the wall. So I've taken up my block too, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to use it, but I'm going to place it behind me, behind my buttocks. So once seated on your bolster, right side to the wall, nudge yourself in a little bit closer, but do leave a slight gap there. So your right side's facing the wall. You left I think of a 4-finger gap between your hip and the wall. Then bend up your right leg and pull the heel in all the way to the bolster. And hold at the front of the shin, which I'm doing, so that you can sit yourself up nice and tall and pretty again. We're going to do our twist with the help of the wall and also with the help of your hand. So left hand, right knee, hold onto the knee bone there, and turn your chest so that you begin to face the chest towards the wall. Bring your right hand on the wall, and instead of it being right in front of your shoulder, move it out to the side and upward slightly, and that will remind you to lift up your chest. We can go one step more deeply into this if you like. Extend up the left arm towards the ceiling, lean into the wall, and bring your elbow to the outside of your right knee. So now you've got your left elbow in between your right knee and the wall, left palm on the wall, and 2 hands will help you turn. Your right hand is a pusher hand. Now, you set your block up behind you, and it may be that you can try a variation here with your hand onto the block behind you and pressing your right hand down to lift your spine up. I find this position more helpful than having my hand on the wall, but for some people, it helps them lift their chest. And one more breath or two, turning in, right shoulder away from the wall, left side towards the wall. And let's let go, unwind, extend out the right leg, and switch sides. Right, so we've changed everything and we've got the position in reverse and the left leg is bent, left heel coming into the left buttock, and then we go a slight turn towards the wall, turning from right to left. If it's helpful for you, this version, right hand on the outside of the left knee. You're not pulling the knee across the body. It stays in front of the chest and pulling lightly to turn the ribs more and more into the wall. We can take the next step and right arm stretch it up, lean across towards the left knee and tuck the elbow in between the knee and the wall with your right hand onto the wall. By all means, keep holding the knee towards you if that next movement is not compatible with your shoulder or other parts of your anatomy. And then bring your left hand onto the block if that was a useful position for you as you press the hand down, turning the ribs, turning the head. Keep your right leg working. It might go a little bit slack, so wake it up, extend the right leg like you did in your leg stretches, and look over your left shoulder. All right, and then let's let all of that twist go and releasing. And we'll finish the work that we're doing with an inversion. And I'll leave this as an option for you, either to do legs up the wall or a shoulder stand at the wall. So if you're doing legs up the wall, you might have some elevation with the bolster, your hips onto the bolster. If you're doing shoulder stand with the help of the wall, I have a stack of several blankets here. 3 blankets will work for me. And I start with a gap between the wall and the blankets. That's where my buttocks are going to go. And for shoulder stand today, I won't use a belt for my arms. I'm just going to stay a little bit more minimalist in the amount of props I'm using. So if I'm using the wall for shoulder stand to do my lift off, it's very helpful. And it starts off very much like legs up the wall. So I've got that space between my blankets and the wall, and I can lie out with my shoulders supported. So most of my torso is up on the blankets, except for the back of my neck, the back of my head resting on the floor. And I've placed my feet on the wall with my legs bent. And then arms straight by the side of my body. Press my arms down and begin to lift my hips up. As soon as I do that, I start rolling off the blanket, and that's such a common complaint, you could say. I'm going to bring my shoulders back a little further from the edge to avoid doing that. And then as I project upwards, I'm using the power of my thigh muscles, my legs, and my buttocks to lift up. It's like a little bridge, but you're elevating. You're on the wall with your little bridge, but you're using your hamstrings. You're using your glute muscles, lifting up enough and even more on my tippy toes to hold my hands onto my back. Once I've got a grasp of my back, I can test the water, one leg away, pushing off, other leg away. My pose is a little jackknifed, so I'm going to see whether I can straighten up by bringing my elbows in and getting a better handhold onto my back, closer to my shoulder blades. If you chose to do shoulder stand, you might find it more restful and kinder to your body at this moment in time, just to keep your feet on the wall with your legs bent. And that's quite a valid way of approaching shoulder stand. So your 2 feet on the wall, you can use those back leg muscles and buttocks to lift up your tailbone. And I'm going to finish with that bent leg position and releasing my hands to my back and rolling down. Before touching my buttocks down, I'm going to bring my feet down a little bit more and slide off the blankets towards the center of the room. I still have my hips up on the blankets, but upper body, shoulders, back of my head onto the floor. And whichever version of the inversion you've done, it takes a few moments to take in that process that your body's been through by being inverted. So all the fluids of your body work in reverse when you're upside down. So we take these moments to settle, and then roll to the side. And come to this part of the class where we set up for the yoga relaxation. I'm going to use a bolster for underneath my knees and thighs, and a folded blanket as a pillow for my head. It's a very good idea to have an eye covering. I recommend it even though I don't have one here at the moment. Get all unnecessary props out of the way so you don't feel like they're impeding your best position. So we take this little while to set up the physical body. So it's optimally comfortable. And you're the only one that can do that, really. And while you've been led and directed through this session, this is your time for practicing self-care.
and setting yourself up for being the most comfortable you know how. And the simplest way to consider your optimum shavasana is just to yield the weight of your body to the ground, to your props. We humans have our different ways of holding in the body, of holding patterns. And this is your opportunity to unravel some of that. And while in this practice we didn't emphasize one of the pranayamas or the breathing practices, this might be the time when you can do that and turn your attention to the sensations of breathing. And in a way, this is probably the highest form of being in the Shavasana, is connecting with your breath to limit the disturbance of your mind, of the activity of thoughts. So you might find the place where you experience your breath most clearly. If that's so for you, you notice where your breath is felt the most clearly. And simply notice the ebb and flow of the breath there. And even if your attention varies or wanders from directing it towards the breath, it's a kindness to notice that and come back to return to the breath. Every time that you notice that, there's the potential to return. And basically, you're returning to the moment, to presencing yourself all over again. And that in itself is a great kindness. In a moment, we'll be moving out of the relaxation and hopefully taking the mood of relaxation with us, of peacefulness. So when you're ready, then fold your arms in, bend your legs in, and roll onto your side in a kind of fetal position. And come up slowly. And once seated and in the traditional way of joining hands in front of your chest, incline your head towards your heart center and elevate your heart a little bit. Thinking in terms of kindness, respect. We invoke the expression Namaste. Thank you.